Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Cadenhead Amateur Dram Antic Society tasting. And this evening I'm going to do the second part of my tasting of the Cadenhead Authentic Collection July 2026 releases. In the first part we looked at the Dufftown, the Loch Lomond, the Glasgow and the Glenfarclas. Tonight it's the Tullibardine 2015 11-year-old at 52.2%, the Glen SPEY-GLENLIVET 2009 16-year-old at 54.7%, the BALMENACH-GLENLIVET 2013 13-year-old at 54%, and the LONGROW 2015 11-year-old at 55.9%. So I'm going to carry on with this pack, which had 8 whiskies in it, now has 4, the bottom 4 here, and I'll just pour them out, have them sitting whilst I do my introduction. So these are 2CL samples. What a colour on this Tullibardine. These are all natural colour, non-chill filtered. CL gives you enough, I think, to get a measure of the whiskey, and then if you really like it, because we get these slightly nice colour on the Balmenach as well, which is a PX cask, of course. So quite a variety of different distilleries, different finishes, different ages, and different ABVs. So that's them all poured. You do get this tasting card with notes, and also if you're going to drink them like I have as a tasting, sort of order in which to do it. So first tonight and fifth of this series is the Tullibardine 2015 11-year-old at 52.2%. So Tullibardine started life as a beer brewery that was favoured by King James IV of Scotland before it eventually became a whisky distillery in the late 1940s. This one was distilled in 2015, then finished in a Oloroso hogshead since 2022 before bottling in June 2026, producing 192 bottles. So it spent 4 years in an Oloroso hogshead. The Tullibardine whiskies of former times were known as being a bit oily and transporting floral and nutty notes. The new setup by the new owners kept the light floral and malty character, but the intensive wood management doesn't make it easy to define a distinctive distillery character. However, the new make has aromas of fruity malt, think bananas and honeydew melon, with helpings of baking bread and a little butter. The palate has heaps of fresh, subtly grassy malt, with some rather boisterous herbs and a touch more of that tropical fruit. And the finish is spicy with a little dollop of honey. So let's look at this Tullibardine 2015, finished in an Oloroso hogshead for 4 years. And you can see the colour of this, it's just mahogany. And it's got good tears on it. So this was 52.2%. And on the nose, you do get the characteristic Tullibardine bourbon notes of vanilla, caramel, cream soda, sweet nectar and oak. intertwining with layers of dried fruit and warming spice. Mince pies and sherry, dried fruit, figs, dates, and a little Dunwich funk. And you get cola cubes, lemon and lime, and those figs and cloves. But all in all, the dried, beautiful tears in this, the dried fruit notes are huge. And it's like sticking your nose in a bowl of Christmas cake mix. There's some rum and raisin ice cream, a little scraped vanilla pod, hedgerow berries, and a hint of spice. We'll try the mouth. And it has a sweet, spicy arrival. It is oily, but for a Tullibardine it does feel a little thin. You get all the dried fruit from the nose. But you also get strawberries and raspberries. And sweetness comes from brown sugar, caramel sauce, and some honey. Blackberry, cigar box, chocolate covered raisins, and homemade lemonade. And there's a little fruit and nut chocolate note here. And the rum and raisin ice cream is back as well. But there is a huge spice influence here. Cinnamon, nutmeg, and quite fiery ginger. But it's nicely balanced. And a little dryness as the liquid disappears invites you to take another sip. And those spices, nutmeg, cinnamon, candied ginger, cushioned with a hint of brown sugar. And the spice on the palate mellows on the finish, which is smooth and buttery. Tangerines, nutmeg, pumpernickel bread, date syrup, and a sort of lingering dry spice, toffee sweetness, and dried fruit. I'm going to add 2 mils of water to this. There's a lovely viscimetry. I've tried a few Tullibardines. They did a series, the Sovereign, 225, I think. The various, possibly a 200. You used to get a pack. I think there was 4 in the pack of their core range. Not so many age statements for Tullibardine I've seen. I've got a 20-year-old sometime, which I'll do a tasting of sometime. Nice tears again. And sherry sweetness. Dried fruit. A gentle, malty warmth. And the Oloroso finishing adds dried cherry and warm nuttiness. And beneath the sherry you get vanilla and clean malt. It's well balanced. Try the mouth with water. With water it's sherried and malty, dried fruit, honey, a gentle oak spice. And the Oloroso finish adds a welcome richness to Tullibardine's Queen Spirit. And the mid palate brings toffee, gentle warmth, and a clean sweetness. And the finish is medium, with sherry warmth and dried fruit. So the Oloroso finishing suits Tullibardine's style. The clean, light spirit absorbs the sherry influence well, and it gains richness and depth without losing its essential Highland character. I think this one would be perfect for Christmas. It would be a lovely dram for a cold winter's evening, or in Cadenhead, a cold windy summer's evening, in front of a fire with a mince pie or two, maybe a Johnston's pancake. It's a lovely balanced dram with sweetness and spice on the tongue, and the nose is good. The palate a little less so. On the other hand, it's an easy sipper, inviting more sips and more pours. So that's a Tullibardine. I'm going to cleanse my palate. I've still got a little of my Tony's Chocolonely nugget milk almond honey bar. It's a chocolate bar. It's very nice, actually, I have to say. I wish there had been topics, but that was probably my wife and I's favourite chocolate bar. So, next up, we have the Glen SPEY-GLENLIVET 2009, 16-year-old at 64.7%. I'm quite excited about this one because I tasted Glen SPEY, but not much. I think I tasted whisky from most, if not all, of the distilleries in Scotland. And Glen SPEY kind of passes under the radar a bit, and that's because it mainly produces spirits for blends. It's found in the small Speyside village of Rothes, and this single cask bottling from the Speyside distillery was distilled in 2009, then re-racked into an Amontillado hogshead since 2022 before bottling in June 2026, producing 234 bottles. So Glen SPEY still retains an air of Victorian rectitude, and it conforms to the light Gilby J&B rear style. There's a purifier on the tall reflux inducing wash stills, something akin to Glen Grant. And this is the effect of introducing an oily element to the nutty character, which manifests itself as an almond note. So The new make of Glen smells fat with popcorn, butterscotch like sweet fruit behind. Slight sweetness, then green almond or almond oil. The palate is clean and green with light nut flour. It's dry overall and simple. The finish is dry and crisp. So let's see what the Amontillado finish has done. 4 years with an Amontillado finish. I'm going to do a series of tastings in which I'm going to compare a whiskey from a distillery that is just a straight bourbon maturation, and then compare it with either a different sherry finish. And I'm going to taste that sherry, or the nearest I can get to the sherry it's been finished in, certainly the same kind of sherry, and see if I can see what effect the sherry finishing or maturation has had on the whiskey. And we'll discuss Amontillado further in that series of tasting. So, 16 years old, sorry. Yeah, 16-year-old Glen SPEY at 54.7%. And it's got quite a thin tide line. Quite runny tears. And on the nose you get vanilla ice cream, custard creams, creme brulee, hints of fudge and hazelnuts. But there's also some summer fruits, a tinge of peanuts, plenty of banana, a gentle minerality, but lots of fresh fruit, caramel. There's some light varnishes, spices, spiciness, pinch of salt, and then it evolves towards citrus notes as time goes by. Let's try the mouth. It's like an old-fashioned cocktail. Maraschino, cherries, blood orange, and buttercream. Decently creamy. There are nuts again, some orchard fruit, but also a fair bit of oak spices, nutmeg, ginger, pepper. Sweetness, nuts, fullness. Got a rich aroma, spices, cinnamon, pepper, but there's a subtle sweetness lingering in the background, highlighted by creme caramel, Madeira cake, and brown sugar. And it finishes Calvados like apple sour, milk chocolate. It's medium length, more of the palate, spices, and a soft sweetness. Gonna add 1.5 ml of water to this. This one was 54.7%. And you can see the colour is much lighter than Tullibardine, different sherry, same length of finish, but this one was Amontillado. whereas the Tullibardine was Oloroso. Nice viscosity. And you get creamy vanilla straight out of the nose. Yeah, vanilla is quite an essential part of this whiskey. And then you get a nut malty praline note with an undertone of apple and orange, caramel, milk chocolate, earthy tobacco, and leather, suede leather. Try the mouth. And with water, the palate is citrus led with a dominant orange marmalade like taste and a slight nuttiness coming from the Amontillado, and spiced oak, tobacco, leather, hazelnuts, buttery chocolate croissants, and dry spice. And the creamy vanilla from the nose lingers in the background on the palate. And the finish is a warm, spiced, medium finish with a herbal and orange marmalade again. Sweetness and caramel, vanilla, nuts, salt, spices, pepper, and it is sort of medium length. Gonna cleanse my palate. This is my last bit of my Tony's Chocolonely Nugget Almond and Milk Chocolate. So the Glen SPEY is a brilliant drop. It doesn't drink like it's a cask strength whiskey. If anything, in this summer heat, although we aren't really having a summer in Cadenhead, unlike other parts of the UK, and in many ways we're grateful for that because we have heard some horror stories of the grass not growing, there being no grass, branches falling off trees as they try and sacrifice elements of themselves to survive the lack of water. Farmers are really struggling with water in their fields. So we've not got any of that. We maybe 14 or 15 degrees centigrade during the day, 9 or 10 at night. And yeah, sure, we've had a lot of rain recently, but par for the course up here. But the Glen SPEY in the summer heat would be refreshing, and all the favourite flavours combine masterfully. So that's a good drop of whiskey. So third up of the four this evening, or seventh in the overall tasting, is the BALMENACH-GLENLIVET 2013 13-year-old, 54%. And BALMENACH is one of the oldest licensed whisky distilleries in Scotland, and you find it in Cromdale in the Speyside region. This one was distilled in 2013, then finished in a PX hogshead 6 years since 2020, before bottling in June 2026, producing 246 bottles. So, Imber House has no plans to release this highly distinctive whisky as a single malt. The reason for this is that the make, whose style is unusual these days, is too highly prized as fillings for blends, both by Imber House and other firms. The fermentation is long, the stills relatively small, and they run quickly, and the vapour runs into worm tubs rather than shell and tube condensers. And this helps to produce sorry, I'm just adjusting the camera sound. This helps to produce a slow maturing new make character, which is rich and meaty, which is ideal for adding weight and grunt to blends, and can be a good match for sherry casks. And this one's of course PX. So on the nose, Balmenach New Make Spirit is robust with meaty leathery notes, worm tubs. There are notes of mutton stock and ripe apple. And this is the evidence of the meat and guts of the traditional worm tubs used at Balmenach. And this power remains with the whisky as it matures. The palate of the new make is heavy and dense in the mouth with an exotic sweetness. And it's this sweetness that balances Balmenach, mature in a sherry cask, and the mintiness is enhanced in refill or ex-bourbon. And it is this more aromatic aspect that comes to the fore. And the finish is long with a little smoke. So you can see the colour of this one, PX cask. You can see what that does to a whisky. Now, ABV of 54%, so it's not really been a candy cask to beef this whisky up. But let's see where we go. Nice tears. PX. And although it's been clearly boosted with very heavy PX, I think in this case it's worked. It's chock full of black raisins, Nescafe, Ovaltine, fruity protein bars, blackberry and peanut perhaps, hoisin sauce, fermenting figs, honey and dark chocolate. There is a very strong smell of pure sweet PX. Rich sherry aromas, making the sherry and oak, complemented by marzipan and an earthy dip. And a spicy note of lovage completes the picture. It's not a bad nose at all. Try them out. It's very thick, milk coating, spicier on the palate, with more coffee too, more marmalade, more corn syrup, heavy molasses, gravy, brown sauce. This is Balmenach. Black Forest Gâteau. dates, walnuts. You could drizzle this over a beef burger and call it a Mac PX or something. Intense sherry and distinctive wood dominate with musty and mushroomy notes, cherry notes, and a sweet dryness, all accompanied by a sharp earthiness, which characterises the profile of BALMENACH. And the finish is moderate, getting a little less rounded and spicier and woody. It's got a chewy mouthfeel, black cherry, matcha. The crepe Suzette feeling stays with cola, pepper, varnished wood, mixed nuts, smoked raisins and dates. I'm going to add 2 mils to this, 1.5 mils. Nice for symmetry again. All unchill filtered, natural colour. And with water, the aromas are more of game. Meat sauces, Worcester sauce, chocolate, and quite a colourful bouquet of lemonade and fruit crumbs. Cola Haribos and English wine gums. Still lots of PX, wood, cherry, and some lovage. Let's try them all. But we've added water, and yet the mouthfeel is thicker yet. The touches of cedar shavings, blood oranges, it's still very PX forward. There's some earthier notes, pepper, rubber, and a hint of graphite develops. Menthol, and an increased sweetness enriches the character. Lots of wood, sweet grapes, plums, raisins, and chocolate pudding. The aromas are very intense but balanced, round and harmonious. And the finish is rather dry and medium long. So the PX finish might seem over the top, but it works quite well. And the distillate still holds, although the influence of the PX cask is obvious. And it does lead to a very generous, opulent malt. Sort of an after-dinner whiskey. Gonna cleanse my palate now. Well, this time I've got milk chocolate with salted caramel sea salt. It's another Tony's chocolate only. Mashed. I think I mildly prefer that one to the first chocolate bar. And so to the final gram of this tasting. the 4th and 8th in total, and it's the Longrow 11-year-old at 55.9%. So Longrow was first produced in 1973, and it's a heavily peated expression from Springbank. Longrow itself is double distilled, and the malt is dried over a peat fire for 48 hours, resulting in a hefty 50 phenol parts per million. For example, or for comparison, the typical Springbank is peated to a modest 8 to 10 parts per million. So this Longrow 11-year-old bottling was distilled in 2015, then re-wrapped into a fresh rye barrel in 2025 before bottling in June 2026, producing 264 bottles. So Longrow's new make has a sweet nose with cassis, earthy smoke, wet slate, and the palate is intense and sweet, followed by a huge purple cloud of smoke. There's a touch of tomato sauce spiciness, and the finish is bone dry with smoke and a hint of tingling song. So, rye. I'm not fond of rye whiskey. I find it too dry for me, too astringent, so I'm not sure how I'm going to go with this one. But we've got to give everything a try. It's quite pale in colour, so it was a fresh rye cask. And not bad tears in this one. You can see the colour there. And you get toasted marshmallow. I used to get these cigars that had port finish, cafe cremes with a port thing in them, and I get kind of that aroma off of this. Ripe banana, lemon zest, and provolone. It's milky, cardboardy, and mashy, which is something you get from most recent Longrows. There's also fresh butter, but also wet chalk, cod liver oil, aspirin, and rubbed orange zest. It does feel a little chemical after a while. There's notes of canned pineapple. After a while, there's very little peat left, but a bit of Fisherman's Friends and motor oil. Fisherman's Friends are a sort of aniseedy, licorice, sweet, tiny little pastilles you get in the UK, possibly Scotland only. I think probably wider in the UK. I'll get hints of overripe fruits, kiwi fruits, and camphor. And it is unusual. It's a nose unlike any other malts. The rye has done something to the Longrow. We'll try them out. Cream sponge. Black olive tapenade. and time. It's sort of a very funny attack that makes me think of Hazelburn with its weird but interesting profile. There's a little salt. Alka-Seltzer, concentrated lemon juice and rosehip tea. Hints of salmiak and even kippers. It goes in many directions, but always off the beaten track, which makes it kind of lovable. And the finish is briny, campfire smoke, burning leather, and it's long, but a little chemical again, with notes of artificial orange juice and something a little soapy there in the finish. I'm going to add 2 mils to this. This one's at 55.9%. Yeah, I think these 2cl measures they give you in these tasting packs are probably just ideal to give you an impression of the whiskey. Lovely viscimmetry in this one, by the way. So with water. And now you get whiffs of cooked cabbage and new plastic. And again you get Alka-Seltzer and rotting oranges. It's not unlike the 100 proof Longrow, just a bit more extreme. And then I'm getting shoe polish and liquid detergent. Something that doesn't quite work with my nostrils here. So, some fellow whiskey aficionados might like this one better. And I guess it's me. It's weirdly kind of medicinal and chemical for my taste. Try them out. I'm still getting the chemical taste. Aspirin, paraffin, medicines, cactus. Something like unaged tequila. Hints of salt, but also some rubber. The finish is long, peppery and orangey. I think this one is unconventional. Hence, it would be worth trying if you're a Longrow lover. That's for sure. But it doesn't quite make it for me. But don't take my comments literally. There may well be some kind of incompatibility with my own sensorial system. I just don't like rye whiskey. And okay, this only had a year in a rye cask. It may be something genetic, maybe. I am definitely got Viking roots somewhere. So, overall, these 8 whiskies. I think the Loch Lomond, Glenfarclas and Glen Spear are the 3 standout drams from this set. The Dufftown and Glasgow are quaffable session drams. The Balmenach is a late evening after dinner dram. The Tullibardine is good, but I'm sorry, the Longrow hasn't helped my relationship with rye. But then, altogether, it's been a varied and successful tasting. Thank you for listening.